The galaxy was shaking under the weight of war. For months, the great powers of the stars, the Kalari Union and the Vexar Dominion, had gathered warships around the glowing nebula of Eris Prime. Every star system watched with fear. One wrong signal, one spark, and the greatest war in history would begin. No one expected a single human to step between two empires. A lone ship ambassador. Daniel Cross stood in the observation deck of a small human vessel. Unlike the massive star cruisers outside, his ship had no weapons, no shields, no armies. Only a single diplomatic core and a fragile human heart. Daniel was not a soldier. He was a listener. On Earth, he had once been a teacher. Later, he learned to talk to alien species. Some called him foolish. Others called him brave. But today, the entire galaxy would know his name. His mission was simple to say, but almost impossible to do. Stop the war before it began. As the Vexar fleet aligned its crystal-shaped ships and the Kalari vessels glowed with energy, Daniel's tiny ship moved slowly between them. The galaxy held its breath. The first transmission human vessel, the Vexar commander spoke in a sharp, cold tone. "You are entering a war zone. Leave now or be removed." The Kalari broadcast followed seconds later. Their voice was soft but full of warning. "Ambassador, this is not your fight. Do not die for nothing." Daniel closed his eyes and spoke calmly into the open channel. "I am not here to fight. I am here so that you don't have to." Silence followed, not because they agreed, but because both sides wanted to hear what this strange human would say next. Why they fought. The Vexar believed the nebula belonged to them. The Kalari said it was part of their star map for centuries. Both sides had lost diplomats, ships, and trust. They had drawn their battle lines, built their strategies, and convinced themselves that war was inevitable. But Daniel had studied their history for years. He knew something they had both forgotten. The message of light inside his ship was a small device. It was not a weapon. It was a holographic projector designed to display timelines, star paths, and possible futures. Daniel activated it. Above Eris Prime, a brilliant light expanded, a star map made of millions of glowing points. It was visible to both fleets. "This," Daniel said, "is your future." The light shifted. Red streaks crossed the stars. The Kalari fleet collapsed in one sector. The Vexar crystal cities were broken in another. Entire planets turned black. No side won, everyone lost. "You have both calculated your victories," Daniel continued. "But humans, we calculate your tomorrow. This is what war will do to both of you." The Kalari grew silent. The Vexar, logical and proud, scanned the data. They found no flaw. It was a model based on their own war plans. "The weight of tomorrow," a Kalari elder spoke. "Human, why do you care for our war?" Daniel's face appeared on every screen. He looked tired but not weak, because war doesn't stop at borders. It spreads. It burns everything. It reaches even those who did not light the fire. Vexar voices murmured. "And what would you have us do? Forget centuries of betrayal?" "No," Daniel replied softly. "Remember it, and choose something better." The words were simple, but in the language of diplomacy they were powerful. No one had ever asked the Kalari and Vexar to choose peace. They had only been told to surrender or win. The music of humanity. The two fleets stared at each other through the void. Tension filled every ship. Everyone expected someone to fire. A mistake. A spark. Daniel changed the transmission again. This time, the holographic stars faded. In their place, music filled the channel. A soft human melody. A song recorded centuries ago on Earth. It carried no words, only emotion. It flowed like light, like water. The Kalari were a species that felt sound as colors. To them, the song painted the black of space with warm golds and greens. The Vexar, logical and structured, analyzed the rhythm and found in it a perfect balance. Something that spoke of harmony, not chaos. The warships that had prepared to fire paused. The past and the present. Daniel told them a story, not of humans winning wars, but of Earth after its own near destruction. He spoke of how humanity had stood at the edge of ruin more than once. How cities had burned, how nations had almost ended everything, but how they had chosen to rebuild. "We learned," he said, "that the greatest victories are not in conquering, they are in continuing." The Kalari remembered their own homeworld storms. The Vexar remembered the collapse of their first empire. Memories that had once been buried returned like the light of old stars. One voice among millions. Daniel was only one man. But at that moment, billions were listening. On planets across the galaxy, broadcasts were open. People in colonies, stations, and cities watched this human stand in the space between two giant war fleets. Not with power, but with words. The galaxy expected war. Daniel gave them something else. The turning point in the Kalari flagship, High Speaker Vela turned to her council. What if the human is right? On the Vexar War Command, strategist Talon traced the light map with his crystal fingers. If this is correct, there will be no empire left to protect. Both sides gave new orders. Fleets held their positions. No weapons fired. For the first time in centuries, Kalari and Vexar talked. Daniel listened. He guided their voices but did not command. He reminded them of what they still shared. The stars, the need to survive, the beauty of what they could still build. The accord of Aris Prime hours passed. The galaxy waited. Then from both flagships a single message went out. The war is postponed. Talks have begun. The crowd on Earth cheered. Colonies lit their cities. No one knew if it would last forever, but they knew this moment mattered. Daniel floated in his small ship, exhausted but smiling. He had no army, no power, no weapon, but he had changed the future. The Kalari Union and Vexar Dominion signed the Aris Accord 2 weeks later. Not a perfect treaty, but a beginning. The human who listened. When Daniel returned to Earth, he was not welcomed with parades or gold. He didn't want that. All he wanted was to sit by the ocean and breathe. Reporters asked him, "How did you stop the war?" Daniel only said, "I didn't stop it. I reminded them they didn't have to start." A light that stayed. The galaxy didn't change overnight. Old wounds healed slowly, but the name Daniel Cross spread like starlight. His speech was translated into 100 languages. His music played in Kalari gardens and Vexar crystal halls. For the first time in 1,000 years, two ancient enemies built something together. A new star station over Aris Prime. They called it the Horizon Bridge. At its center stood a small statue of a human, not in armor but with his hand open toward the stars. Beneath it, a simple message.